Clara and John Hinton married in 1970 at the small Christian college where they met, and 2 years later they moved east to start their dream ministry.
We were kids when we moved to Somerset, Pennsylvania. We were 22 years old. I had prayed from a young child up for a Christian husband. That's all I ever wanted, was a Christian husband, and I wanted to be a Christian wife and mother.
John became pastor of the Church of Christ, and they went on to have a large family, 11 children.
He was very relaxed and very calm, very kind. He was great with the kids. He was their go-to person. He was my spiritual leader. We would spend many hours talking about God and our faith.
She and many others considered John to be a super dad. Their fifth son, Jimmy, adored his dad, and as he grew older, began to appreciate his ministry.
I remember sitting in the pews here and hearing him preach and hearing the passion behind it, and he just knew his Bible really well. And I just remember thinking, I want to be standing up there one day. I want to be making a difference in the world one day.
Both dreams would come true, but not in the way Jimmy had hoped. Even as Clara and Jimmy perceived an ideal family, John Hinton kept a double life hidden that neither ever suspected, although Clara did struggle to understand some of his behavior.
He would just do off-the-wall things. For instance, he would be preaching and do really weird things. He threw a lit firecracker in the auditorium one morning, and it's like, why do you do this stuff?
Another time, one of their daughters found him locked in his office looking at pornography. He later said he was doing sermon prep. But one of his victims was growing up, and at age 20 realized not only had Hinton abused her, he was likely abusing others. That victim was Hinton's youngest daughter.
I saw this picture of my dad touching me in an inappropriate way, but it was one of those things that I would try to play it off like, oh, he wouldn't actually do that to me. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe I'm not remembering something correctly, or I just kept trying to brush it off.
But when he asked her to help him babysit, she could no longer brush it off.
One of the kids had said that she loved spending the night at his house. And she had asked him that day, are we spending the night at your house tonight, Mr. John? And can we sleep in your bed?
Alex began to research and discovered her dad matched the profile of an abuser, and she matched the profile of a victim. But should she tell? After weeks of indecision, she went to her mom.
At that moment, it was like a million light bulbs went off, because so many little fragments of things that happened all along the years.
It became clear that they must tell Jimmy, son, brother, and current pastor of the church. Alex made an appointment to meet him.
It just takes the breath away from you. And I looked up and she was crying and I started to cry. I said, I believe you. And I think she needed to hear that. And the way I describe it is, I really think that was the Holy Spirit putting those words on my lips in that moment, because I really think she had to hear that.
That very weekend, Jimmy had to officiate a church wedding with his father present. He found it excruciating to keep this news secret. But the next decision, whether to report his dad to authorities, came much easier.
You had so much to lose by reporting.
Yes, I had everything to lose.
So why was that a snap decision for you?
Because I had to know. I had to know the truth. And reporting it and having it investigated by professionals was the only way that we were going to find out the truth.
Police charged Hinton with 200 counts, including rape of a child and indecent assault of a child. His sentence, a minimum of 30 years behind bars. His family never expects to see him again, but 7 years later is still working through what happened. Jimmy remembers the community's early misplaced sympathy for his dad.
When he got arrested, they would ask me, how's your dad doing? How's your dad doing? And at first I would answer it and I would be polite. But then after a while, I just thought, not one person has asked how my dad's victims are doing. And so I started to answer people. I'd say, well, he's doing fine. It's his victims who aren't doing well.
Alex has traveled a road that is not uncommon for abuse victims of spiritual leaders. She stopped attending church and has no desire to go back to her faith.
I don't like the idea of God as a fatherly being, clearly. If that's who he is, he wasn't there for me. If my dad was supposed to be someone who was spreading his word, that's not the case at all.
As Jimmy Hinton has said, the devil got inside our family and none of us saw it. But today, Hinton, his mother, and his sister are seeing much more clearly. And they want other families and churches to know that sometimes someone close to you is an abuser.
Today, the Church of Christ has new measures to protect kids. Each classroom has a lock to keep empty rooms empty. And church policy protects children from potentially unwanted contact.
None of us can walk up to a kid, pull a kid in, and initiate that physical contact. And I think that's really important because abusers very subtly initiate physical contact, and that's how they begin what people call the grooming process.
Boz Tchividjian founded the nonprofit Grace to help churches think through abuse. Many, he says, are quick to believe abusers.
What you'll often see is an abuser responding to an allegation in a way that spins a narrative that they're the actual victim. And then what ends up happening over the time period is the people around them, the people that are naturally would gravitate towards wanting to support them anyway, buy into that narrative. And now the abuser is the victim. The victim now is seen as sort of the perpetrator, the one causing the problems.
Tchividjian says churches will be best prepared to prevent abuse and respond to it if they've taken the time to create a policy. Such plans help church members know what to report and to whom, and they help leaders respond. Clara and Jimmy now co-host a podcast designed to share what they've learned. They want others to know how easy it is to be fooled.
What's interesting in a sad, sad way is he preached about such things, about being harmful to children, and he was this great dad. It was like he's two people. He was this wonderful, loving, kind man, and he was one of the most evil, vile men that ever was.